Welcome everyone. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Olisa and I am leading the marketing initiatives here at Dotgo. I would like to welcome you all to this webinar, which is being hosted by Dotgo along with Google on how to drive sales and service using Google's business messages. It gives me great pleasure to see so many new faces joining in for today's session. So thank you for taking out time today. We have hosted similar sessions in the last month where we've got really good responses from enterprises all across the globe. And we are planning to do more such webinars in the coming few months as well. So for today's webinar, we will be having a 30-minute presentation followed by a 15-minute Q&A, which will be moderated by our CEO, Inderpal Singh. And during the presentation, you all will be on mute. So in case you have any questions, please use the Q&A option to ask any questions you would like to ask. You could also use the chat option to directly chat with the panelists. We will also be running a live poll during the Q&A session. So I would request all of you to please participate in it. So moving on. Google and Dotgo have come together to share this webinar with you to tell how brands can increase their reach and customer engagement using chat option on Google Search, Maps, or even ads. We are bringing together Google's business messaging platform along with Dotgo's messaging platform and their expertise in building chatbots. For those of you who are not familiar with Dotgo, a little bit intro about Dotgo. Dotgo is offering rich business messaging solutions. We are helping brands leverage popular messaging apps which are existing already on their phones, such as Android Messages or Google Search or WhatsApp, to interact with their customers in a much richer and interactive way to offer them sales and service. So for today's agenda, we have with us Mr. Ashish Mithal, who is managing the communication products partnerships at Google. And he will be taking us through what is Google Business Messages, various use cases, and how businesses can implement it. So thank you, Ashish, for joining us today. With this, Ashish's session will be followed by Mr. Shashi Bhushan, who is the Director of Sales at Dotgo. And he will be taking us through how Dotgo can help brands implement Google Business Messages and get started with it. We also have with us, as already mentioned, Inderpal Singh, who is the CEO of Dotgo, and he will be moderating the Q&A session for us. And he is joined by Osaze Osuba, who is the Senior Industry Analyst at Google, and they will be helping us take up questions towards the end. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Ashish to start today's discussion and present his slides. Over to you, Ashish.
Thanks, Olisa. So let me
I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
take over the screen share. Let me know once my screen is visible.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see your screen. Yeah, Ashish. Great.
So thanks. Yes, I'm quite excited to be here. I think Google and Dotgo have been working across multiple initiatives, and Google Business Messages is one of the large strategic initiatives that we started working on. And this product has given us good success already. So we are quite excited to talk to you about what the product can do and how it can deliver value for your businesses. Before I present the product, right, I think what I wanted to do was request you to put on your user hat, right? All of us as an end user, we have experienced times where we have been trying to get in touch with the business of choice, whether it is for maybe rebooking a flight or maybe trying to get in touch with a service provider because the internet stopped working while the kid was at home doing homeschooling. And we have seen how long it can take to get in touch with a live agent support, specifically on a call center. And it is a double whammy. It's a double whammy, right? For businesses, they end up spending trillions of dollars. So as per recent research, businesses spend about $1.3 trillion in customer care calls every year, right? And for all businesses, I can assume that there will be a KPI to reduce this cost, right? And at the customer's end also, they don't enjoy this experience. The waiting times, the fact that they have to go through listening to the idea prompts to wait to connect to the right option, it's not a great experience, right? So what we have done is, and at the same point of time, another change which is happening is that customers increasingly, they are preferring to use messaging as a channel, not just to connect with each others on family and friends, but also to connect with businesses of choice. In fact, 9 out of 10 customers in a recent survey, they called out that they would prefer to engage with businesses, who offer messaging as an option, which just goes on to prove that such a strong secular phenomena around this channel, right? Combining these secular facts which are there, which all of us would have experienced as end users ourselves, what we did was at Google, we realized that we have a huge responsibility of making sure that in a very nice and intuitive fashion of connecting users with businesses of choice. And we had been doing it using existing options which were available, right? And those existing options was showcasing a call button. If a customer is trying to get in touch with a maybe a business in the nearabouts, maybe you're trying to get in touch with a hotel, there would be a call button which you would see on Google Maps. There would be redirection to the website. But now, looking at the customer preference and changing ecosystem requirements, what we've started doing is we've started enabling messaging as an option right on the surfaces which users have come to love and use at scale. And these products, what they do is very simply, they enable messaging interface. Once customers click on it, they have the option to connect with the businesses. The use cases can vary. It could be around commerce. It could be about support, right? So that will depend as per the use case, as per the contextuality. But the fact that this option is available today, which wasn't the case till last year, right? It just opens up a huge range of possibilities which were not there before, right? So just to kind of uh, point out, like one specific example that you can look of is that if there is a business that you're running, and you will always be, of course, trying to ensure that the service for existing customers is good, but also make sure that the prospect customers who are trying to engage with your business, they have a more seamless way of doing that, right? The typical go-to journey will be that you will present a landing page on your website where customers will be able to put in a lead generation form, wherein your LMS might pick it up and get in touch with customer, or customers will have to go through the contact us page on the website and try and figure out which option they want to connect with, right? Now, what this product does is, Google Business Messages, what it does is, in a very intuitive fashion, directly on the Google search products, whether it is on local search. Local search is if you would have done a search like, I want to get in touch, I want to figure out which is the coffee shop closest to me, right? Closest to me gives a result which is called as a local search. And you would see the business listings. For each of those business listings, the place IDs which are there, place sheets which are there, message as an option comes up. And businesses are nicely prompted up saying that, hey, there is a new send a message option available, which users can use if they're trying to get in touch with their bank, to connect with the bank after business hours, because maybe the call centers don't work, like the call to the branch might not work. So there is a functionality available to get in touch with customers after that. Or even on organic search, if a new customer is trying to get in touch with the business, whether it is if they're searching for a specific query related to the business, you can see Swan and Olive help. So there will be a listing which will come up, which will be multiple site links. Along with the site links, this option would be available. Or if customers are being very explicit and asking that, okay, I'm trying to get in touch with the airline customer service. Now, what happens in that kind of a query is there will be a contact center number which will come up prominently. Of course, there will be a site link which will also come, but the contact center number is the most prominent result which comes out, right? So directly along with that, business messages will allow you to place a messaging option, which will offer one more choice for end users and also help you deflect calls away from your call center. Now, going ahead, this is the product which exists today. But when we were working with our brands of choice, and the product is already scaled up, we had launched this product sometime in H2 last year, and already we have more than 1,000 brands using this product. One common feedback that we heard back from brands was that, hey, this is great. This helps me get in touch with customers who are specifically trying to get in touch with my brand using brand search. But is there a way that I can expand it at a category level? So if somebody is searching for a grocery, right? If a customer is searching for say Reliance Retail in India, right, or Walmart elsewhere, uh, then the organic listing will take care of it. The organic listing of Google Business Messages will take care of it. But if customers are searching for a more generic query like deliver groceries, in that case, what we are doing now is that there would be search ads which typically run for all those category searches, and businesses will have an option to enable chat as an option, as an entry point directly then and there. So what it does is it enables a huge subset of audience which earlier would have gone through a multi-point journey to get in touch with you, to directly invoke that chat option and start engaging there itself. And one additional functionality, and I think this, it's very important to understand which are the use cases which will benefit the most out of this. This is our understanding. The use cases which will have the biggest impact are the ones where there are slightly more complex user journeys, where there's a requirement for an assisted purchase, right? And in those use cases, it is also important not to handle the customer query then and there, but also have a mechanism to re-engage with the customer, right? So business messages, what it does is it not only answers the user's requirement then and there, but if there's a conversation thread which was initiated, maybe customers came in and they searched for grocery, and maybe the product wasn't available at that point of time, right? And the business had to show that we are out of stock for this product. When the product is restocked, the business message functionality will allow the brand to re-engage and send a notification saying, hey, you're searching for this product. If you're still interested, the product is now available, and you can go ahead and add it to your cart. So this is the additional functionality which comes into picture. But we're not stopping here. Going ahead, we are trying to actively work on enabling more and more entry points for businesses. And one very simple, very intuitive, and very logical entry point becomes the dialer screen. If a customer has dialed a number, either the number has been saved in the device or they are picking up the number from a web page, on the dialer screen where there's a call button for businesses which have been enabled on Google Business Messages, for Android users, they will also get to see a chat option there, right? So as you can see, the common theme across all these entry points and across all our efforts are to make sure that we can put messages as an option right front and center across the entire value chain which user goes through, right? Thereafter, so these are the channels which Google has been working on to enable entry points. At the same point of time, we also heard back from businesses that they wanted to expand the availability for business messages onto their own channels. And pleased to share that starting this year, we're also allowing businesses to start embedding a link of Google Business Messages on their website, maybe on the contact page button. For many businesses, they already have a live chat option enabled on the website. They might also have a chatbot which is handling some generic queries. Typically, the challenge which happens in those user journeys are that as a customer might maybe reach out to the bank asking for something, and the conversation is going through. And maybe I get a call, I get distracted, I go somewhere else, and I lose track of that tab, right? And when I come back, the session is already logged off, and I have to start again, right? So that becomes a very poor experience for users. By using business messages, the benefit which happens is that it becomes an asynchronous chat. So what it means is that users can not only have a conversation with the brand at that moment, but anytime later, up to next 30 days, either businesses or users can pick up the same thread and can start re-engaging with the brand again, right? And we are already seeing strong, examples of how this business messages are translating into impact for early adopters. So Levi's, for instance, they were one of the pioneers of leveraging business messages. So they have already enabled it across all their stores in North America. And the use cases that they've gone ahead are more shopping focused experiences. The leading use case that they have are for product search and availability. So customers are looking for, say, a complicated category like jeans, right? It is extremely dependent. You can see the options that you have to go through to make the selection. Even those kind of complex use cases can be displayed in a very intuitive fashion on business messages. And the reason is that we not just enabled messaging interface, we also enabled rich interfaces like carousels, suggested replies, answer cards, conversation starters to make it a more engaging journey, right? So you can see a typical use case. The way it will start is that customers click on that message button on Levi's storefront, and thereafter the conversation will start with a welcome message. And this is all customizable. The entire journey that you can see, it will vary and depend. It will vary as per the brand's requirement, as per the context. They can present a multiple options. So the vertically stacked that you see, we call them conversation starters. So you kind of give customers some option to get the conversation going. Customers can tap on it. They can always write in a free-flowing text, and if the brand is supporting the NLP, using NLP to have to handle those queries, then they can respond on that as well. Typically, we have seen if you present these kind of interactive options to customers, customers are more inclined to engage with the brand through that, which makes it more simpler also for brand to categorize and respond to those queries. And if customers goes ahead and makes a choice for a particular jeans, the product selection also, what they do is they Levi's just summarizes the customer preference, whether what is the gender selection, the fit selection and all that, and very nicely displays the top 10 or top 20 products which are matching that description. And thereafter, if they want to search what is the availability for that specific SKU, they also show which is the nearest store where the product is available, right? So just make sure that for omni-channel retailers, it becomes a huge functionality that they can leverage their existing physical stores to have a digital journey with their customers as well. Another great example that we have seen is from a different category, which is tech and technology. So Dish is a pay TV provider in the US, and they had deployed, unlike Levi's, which had deployed it more from a commerce use case intent, Dish has deployed Google Business Messages more from a service support intent, and they've already seen fabulous impact of that deployment. So you can see the metrics are quite impressive. They've seen 28% decrease in average handle times, 21% improvement in resolution rate, and the most important one, and the one which is most gratifying for us as a team, has been that there is 81% channel stickiness, which just goes on to show that once customer starts experiencing these products, they are more likely to come back to it again when they want to get in touch with the businesses of choice. Building on the earlier theme which I mentioned was project messages. So the first part that we covered was the product which is already live, which is on organic listing. What we're doing starting in Q2, we're starting a pilot which will allow these kind of click to chat ads to get enabled. These ads can be in two different formats. It could be an extension format where, along with the redirection to the website, there will also be an extension for chat message to chat experience to be invoked, or it could be a standalone format where the only entry point is chat, and as soon as customers click on it, again the journey could be as they choose to be. We think that this experience will be more apt for commerce use cases, specifically again on assisted sales purchase journeys. We had put together this, an interesting anecdote. We had put together this slide deck thinking a typical user journey of how a apparel purchase would look like. We spoke to an apparel brand, and they immediately could connect with it, saying that they are in the process of launching a range of sneakers which are focused on runners, right? And typically the journey used to be on the search ad. They used to take the user to the landing page, and customers had to make a multiple options, right? Like apart from the colors and all, if they wanted to ask what is the frequency that customers run on, what surface they're running on and all that. Instead of that, if they're able to have that interaction in a conversational fashion, they are very strongly they strongly believe that that will lead to a better outcome, and they were immediately they signed up for this experience, and they're part of the pilot brand to be launched on that. And going ahead, it's not just the conversation at that moment, even the re-engagement happens in a very nice fashion. So if if a user went out and connected with the brand through an ad and completed the transaction, the entire user journey, right from the order confirmation to order delivery, even the feedback on how the product was, that entire journey can be handled in a seamless fashion on business messages itself. Yeah, so that's it from my side. Handing it over to Shashi.
Thank you, Ashish. It gives us a very good understanding of what Google's business messages is. I would like to now invite our second panelist, Shashi, to present his slides. Over to you, Shashi.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone.
Shashi?
Yeah. Yes, Inderpal, go ahead.
I just noticed in the presentation from Ashish, there was some technical glitch. The slides showing the ads did not display properly. Maybe you can just start by showing those slide that with the pictorial of the ads.
All right. Is this fine?
The previous, go back a couple. The previous one. The previous one. Yeah. Ashish, this slide did not display somehow properly. The ads did not display. Maybe you can just
Oh,
take the.
okay.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, I can do that. So, what we are talking about here are a product which does not exist. So this is a sneak preview of what we're planning up next, right? So this is part of a click to messages ads pilot, which we're planning to launch in Q2. And what this slide shows is a mock-up of how the product will look like. Now, typically when you look at search ads will typically be running on certain category keywords or brand keywords, and brands will have either a lead generation as a click to message, or as a CTA, or a redirection to a landing page, right? For certain use cases, we have heard back very strongly from brands that they would directly start having a conversation with the brand, with the user, instead of taking them through the landing page, right? So there are two ad formats that we're planning to run on business messages. One of them is an extension format, in which it will allow the businesses a landing page, and along with it, there will be an extension for invoking chat widget. The second one will be a standalone ad format, where businesses want to have chat as the only option, to engage with the business itself. And as soon as customers will click on the chat option, this is how the journey will look like. So of course, the businesses can start with a welcome message. I think looking at the use case, it
Ashish,
will be more commerce centric. Yeah.
Ashish, these other slides came out fine. It's only the ad slide that somehow did not display.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So,
Does that solve for
okay.
it?
Yes.
Perfect.
All
Go
right.
ahead,
Thanks,
Shashi.
Ashish. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing the insights about wonderful benefits of Google's business messaging. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are right now. So over the next few minutes, I'll just talk about Dotgo's role in bringing the wonderful benefits of Google's business messaging to you and to your business. So as Google's global partner, Dotgo performs or provides four basic services that I'm going to talk about. The first thing that we do is we enable the chat button in your Google listing. So if you have a Google business listing and there is a subscriber or a customer who's looking for you online, along with the usual call button or a website button, they also get to see a message button. And when they hit the message button, they can immediately, engage in a conversation with your chatbot or a live agent. That's the first thing we do. The second thing is, as a brand, if you are advertising on Google's platform, along with your ad, we also provide a chat option or a message button that converts a simple display ad into an immediate call for action. So most advertisers have this problem that their ads go unnoticed, or probably they do not get the kind of responses that they expect from an ad. And this chat button, what it does is it has an immediate instant call for action requirement, where the customer, if they like the ad and they're interested, they're keen, they have some level of interest, they can hit the chat button, and then it's over to you to to kind of handle that conversation further. For handling this conversation, either the customer discovers you through a search engine or through an ad, you need to drive that conversation in a productive way and share the information with the customer, which is generally driven by a chatbot. Dotgo builds these chatbots for you, based on all the latest benefits of artificial intelligence and machine learning, all the security features. We give you tailored chatbots custom to your requirement. While the customer is in a conversation with chatbot, at any stage of that conversation, if the customer so decides to be connected to a live agent, we provide that integration and we hand over the conversation to a live agent for a more personalized and more specific conversation there. Okay, this is what we do. Now, from what we do to how we do it, this is an architecture diagram that explains how do we do that. On the left-hand side of your screen, you see brand over here. That's you, that's your business. On the right-hand side is your user, a customer. So if we look at here, customer is discovering you, customer is looking for you online, they discover, they find you, they find a message button, they hit a message button. And once they hit a message button, Google's messaging platform hands it over to Dotgo messaging platform. And from here, Dotgo takes over the conversation either through a chatbot or a live agent or a combination of both. Now, for some of you who might be thinking why there are two blocks over here for the same dialog flow, let me just explain that some of your businesses may already have an existing live agent solution, and some of you may not have it. Now, in both the conditions, if you have a live agent system, we can integrate with your existing live agent system. If you do not have one, then we provide you with one, and that is why that explains these two blocks over here. Okay, it's all very well to talk about the benefits of a product or a service, and Ashish very wonderfully explained all the benefits of Google's business messaging. But the question that comes to anybody's mind, whether you are a professional or an entrepreneur, whether this is for me, whether the Google's business messaging is for me. The answer to that question is yes. Whether you are a large enterprise or a small scale industry, irrespective of the business vertical that you are, Google's business messaging is equally relevant for your business. So like the slide says, from pizza to pillow and everything in between, it is relevant. Having said that, when I say this, one might be thinking, okay, as a service provider, you will always say that. But let me just establish that by taking a few examples. I mean, we can go on and on with these examples, but for the benefit of time, I'll just talk about 3 or 4 use cases here, 3 or 4 different industry verticals over here. Let me just begin with the most complex industry verticals of banking, healthcare, and retail. And why I'm saying most complex, because typically these business verticals have to handle a very large set of customers. So in a large country like India and some of the other countries like ourselves, okay, banking, healthcare, and retail can have from a few hundred customers to a couple of million customers. And the problem essentially is, how do we productively and efficiently engage these customers? And what services or platforms like Google's business messaging do, they save a whopping 2.5 billion hours. That's the estimate of a study from Google, that by 2023, 2.5 billion hours will be saved in in automizing these conversations. Like Ashish explained, in today's scenario, when somebody wants to reach out to a brand, they have to wait for long hours in the queue, bad user experience, high cost for enterprises. So some of these problems are resolved, resulting into better customer retention, and a better customer retention in turn leading to more business. And again, the study estimates that by 2023, a whopping 112 billion worth of retail sales will be handled by chatbots. Coming to the other industry vertical, restaurants and hotels, typically in the recent times, if we see restaurants and hotel business is a typical example of a business that is reeling for profits and struggling for profits. So saving the cost is order for the day for all such businesses. Okay, and automizing these conversations, or bring an automatic conversation, will save up to 30% cost. What if you are a professional or an entrepreneur in the business and hotel industry? What you can do, you can manage bookings, you can manage orders for home delivery, and you can also manage your customer feedback using Google's business messaging. Coming to the airline, aviation, travel sector, we all, whether we travel for work or for pleasure, we've all encountered glitches, during our travel itinerary. Sometimes we skip a particular alert or a notification that an airline sends us. Sometimes the email doesn't reach on time. Sometimes, it goes unnoticed. So, what typically a traveler wants is that information should be on my fingertips. I should get the information when I want the information. Okay, it is not just the push messaging, it is also the pull messaging. I should receive the information when I want it. Okay, what these industry verticals can use Google business messaging for is for ticket booking, check-in services, upgrade options, schedule tracking, etc., etc. Now, logistics industry is one typical industry which is heavily service oriented. I have spoken to a few professionals in logistic industry. They said that, they're always flooded with calls from customers who are asking for their package delivery, delays in the deliveries, damages in the deliveries, etc. So, typical requirement of this industry vertical is a 24-hour service helpline where the customer doesn't have to wait in the queue for an agent to be available to answer the query. And therefore, Google's business messaging, the chat options provided by Google Business Messaging are, what the doctors ordered for this industry. They can use Google's business messaging for managing their bookings again, tracking the shipments, customer feedback, and also manage customer claims. Okay, I'll talk about this, but then before that, I just want to do a small demo so that I can show you some of these things live that I have spoken about. Okay, just bear with me for a few seconds. Now, what you see right now on the screen is the screen of my mobile phone. Okay, now I just do what the user generally does. Okay, I am on the Google Map, and I'm looking for, let's say, Levi's store. I mean, Ashish spoke about Levi's quite extensively, so let's just take that example, and I click on Levi's. So what you saw on the screen is right now live in front of you. Along with the call and the direction button, I also get to see a message button here. I hit the messaging button, and then right now the chatbot welcomes me. He says, I am a chatbot, etc., etc. It gives me an option: find a product, find Levi's store, see promotions, track orders. I say, okay, find my product. It'll ask me questions. Okay, what kind of product, men's product, women's product, and so on and so forth. Okay, you've seen some of these things in the screens. So I'll not go further on that for the benefit of time. Now, from a large, let's say, brand in retail sector, let's just move on to a relatively smaller brand, let's say probably in the education sector. Okay, so okay, I go with the Silver Learning Malton. Again, like you see here on your screen, apart from call and direction button, I also see a chat button. I hit the chat button. Okay, it gives me options. Let's say I ask for office information. Okay, it says these are the office hours. I go back to the menu. Okay, now I have carousel option. So I go to special offers. They send me special offers. Okay, at any stage of this conversation, if I want to chat with a live agent, I can also go to a live chat. Okay, so if I say, now this is a very specific personalized question that I'm asking, which may not be available in a regular chatbot option. Okay, so there could be some delays in the live chat options, but moving on. All right, so coming back to our presentation. Now this slide actually captures some of the, one of the most asked question from various customers that we met. It says Google Business Messaging is a fantastic interactive communication, but how is it different from a web chat? So there are three fundamental differences between GBM and the web chat. The first is the duration itself. A web chat is a short duration conversation, and it ends immediately after the chat gets over. But in Google's business messaging, the brand has an option of conversing or sending communication to the customer for up to 30 days. For example, as a customer, if you're looking for a purple pair of shoes, and that purple pair of shoes is not available on a certain day, and it is available in the store after 7 days, the store could still send you a message and say, okay, look, you were looking for this pair of shoes and this is available right now. Are you still interested? So, that's the first fundamental difference. The second difference is the accessibility itself. The web chat can only be accessed through a website. You have to visit a website to start a web chat, while a GBM chat can be initiated from a Google ad or a search website or a dialer. Okay, and then also the call history. The call history disappears when the chat gets over in the web chat, while your chat history, like you saw on my screen live, is intact on your phone. Okay, so I have received the response from the live agent of Sigmund also. I'll show you a little later. But moving on. Okay, now the question is, okay, these are all wonderful things, but how do I get started? So there are 4 basic, very simple steps of. Yes.
There are some people reporting that the presentation screen is minimized. Can you maximize the screen instead of video? I am seeing the presentation screen in full form. Is anybody else facing the problem where the display is not correct?
On my side, it is full screen.
Same for me.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then continue. I think now people are saying it's on screen. Go ahead.
All right. So continuing. So there are 4 basic steps of starting your engagement with Google Business Messaging. Number 1 is that we develop a chat bot and enable a chat button on your business listing. Second stage is you verify the brand, which is a very simple process of verification by Google. And after that, your messaging button turns on with your listing. Number 3 is you start the conversation and engage the customers. And number 4 is if you want enhanced features, want to upgrade the chatbot, put an instant buy options, etc., all of those things can be upgraded. You can start small and you can scale up gradually as your business grows. But overall, it's about 2 to 4 weeks that 2 to 4 weeks, 15 to 30 days is all it takes for your GBM to go live. And this is 100% cloud enabled. All right, I'm just rushing through these slides. Now, while we're talking about Google's business messaging, some of you might be thinking that Google, like Google, are there other channels? Are there other platforms that we can use to engage our customers? The answer is yes. And one of such platforms or a communication channel is WhatsApp. In various parts of the world, WhatsApp is a default chatting app, and a lot of people in a person-to-person conversation use WhatsApp. As the BSP, a business solution partner for WhatsApp, we can also enable WhatsApp platform for your business to have conversation between you and your customers. We offer you the WhatsApp APIs and build the chatbots for you. Now, just to add a small point here, let's say you have a chatbot built by Dotgo for Google's business messaging. That same chatbot can be adapted for WhatsApp and vice versa. There's another very interesting service that I want to talk about. This is called Rich Content Service, or SMS 2.0. Why SMS 2.0? Because this is a natural upgrade from SMS to rich communication in messaging. Most businesses, I would say all businesses, have been using SMS for communicating with their customers in some form or the other. Whether it is an OTP, verification, alert, notification, promotional messages, all kind of messages have been used for communication between brands and their customers. And SMS has worked wonderfully well for most businesses. However, we all know SMS comes with a couple of limitations. Number 1, SMS just allows a text to be transmitted. It's just a text communication. Number two, it's in most cases, it's a one-way communication. The brand sends an SMS to the subscriber, to the customer, but customer cannot respond to that message. Now, both of these problems are resolved by RCS or SMS 2.0. In this case, you could communicate with your customers either through cards, images, pictures, GIFs, whatever rich communication, logo, your QR code, you name it, and all of that can be transmitted. Number two, it is live, interactive, like I just showed you in case of a Google demo, exactly in the same manner. It's a interactive communication between the brand and the customer. So on the right hand side of your screen, you see all the benefits listed. It has better security. It has better visual experience, of course. Who doesn't want to see their own brand and logo on the screen? It has better branding options, okay, and it improved success rate. Right now, the service is launched in USA, UK, India, South Africa, and Nigeria, and many more countries are following suit. Of course, Dotgo is a leader. We've been a part of this ecosystem for last 4 years, almost 4 years. Okay, so we've taken leadership and have developed some products in the RCS ecosystem as well, and we offer a very attractive inaugural prices in this. That's the end of my presentation. The floor is open for questions. Please go ahead and ask your questions.
Thank you, Shashi. Thank you for such an insightful session. I would now like to invite Inderpal to moderate the Q&A. Just few housekeeping rules for the Q&A. In case you have any questions, I see some of you already have raised hands. So if you want to ask directly questions to the panelists, please feel free to raise your hand and we will let you ask the questions directly to the panelists. Or otherwise, as mentioned, you can use the Q&A or the chat option to ask any questions. Over to you, Inderpal.
Okay, thank you, Olisa. Olisa, do you want to do the at some point you want to do the poll? You will have to run the poll.
Sure. I'll make the poll live now.
Right. So thanks, Ashish and Shashi for your and insightful presentation on Google's business messages. So I'll kind of go through some of the questions that have come in while people were registering for this session, and then I'll also take any questions that come live from the audience. So the first question here is from Fatahi at BTL Marketing. How do I better handle unsuccessful prospects using Google Business Messages? Want to take that? Would you take that, Ashish?
Yeah, sure. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. How do I better handle unsuccessful prospects using GBM?
So I'm assuming the question has got to do with that there are some leads which are coming in from the conversation, and maybe the conversions didn't go through. So I think one thing is that it will of course depend, business to business, use case by use case. But one strong benefit that you can leverage from GBM standpoint is the fact that there's an option to re-engage with a customer over the next 30 days. So if the user had come as a prospect to the chat and had engaged at that point of time, it would be a good idea to put up a re-engagement protocol to handle, right, at a certain periodicity, to make sure that you re-engage with the customer, make sure that you nudge the user at the right moment, of course in a contextual manner without making it spammy. And that in itself, I think, will make sure that there is a better conversion from that standpoint. Another thing to notice is that if a lead is coming in, when the GBM conversation starts, Google does not pass on any PI information. So we always recommend to businesses to make sure that in the early part of the conversation to capture that user information, right? What is the mobile number or email ID, which then allows you to have re-engagement across different channels. So you have an option to go back and connect with the user.
Thank you, Ashish. I think this is a very, very important point. and a big value of the Google Business Messages channel. If somebody comes to you through an ad, somebody comes to you through a search, uh, you really do have a way of re-engaging with them, even if they did not lead to a sale immediately. You can reach out to them again and converse with them, allowing you to convert them maybe in the next week, in the next month, as a customer. I think the couple of questions, I'll maybe combine them into this. You mentioned you can revert to a customer within 30 days, but how long does the history actually last? I mean, the history lasts for 30 days, or does it last for a different amount of time?
So on the user side, conversations are retained on two ends. One end is at the user client end, right, which is the user's device. The chat is saved there permanently. So until unless user goes ahead and deletes that conversation, it will always permanently stay there. On the other endpoint of the API is messaging application, and over there itself, it depends on the logic. If that information is getting integrated with the CRM, so it becomes part of the same data lake and can be accessed later. Otherwise, if there is any protocol which is put in place by the business in line with the privacy policies, then they are free to follow that as well.
Okay. I'll go to the next question. Is GBM a Google product, or does it work on iOS as well?
That's a great question. I think this was one thing that we missed out in our presentation as well. Google Business Messages as a product is a smartphone first product. So it definitely works very well on Android devices. Across all Android devices, irrespective of the browser or on Google Maps, the conversation is whether it gets initiated, it works well. On iOS, we understood that almost 2/3 of iOS users also use Google Maps as a preferred navigation tool. So what we have done is we have leveraged Google Maps as a client on iOS devices, and that becomes an entry point, right, for iOS users to re-engage with to connect with the brands through GBM. So for iOS users, GBM works through Google Maps. For Android users, it works from Google Maps. Apart from that, also through browser and Google search itself.
Just to add to this, the entire demo that I ran on my iOS. So that's a proof it works on iOS as well.
Ashish, will the demo also work on the Android phones?
Yes.
Okay. I have another question from some retail company. We have several retail stores. How does GBM scale to serve the customers at each of the stores?
So in fact, we have seen maximum amount of success that we have seen from GBM is from brands which have omni-channel experiences, right? Which have retail stores in place, and they're also trying to connect with the users on a digital way. And when the conversation is initiated, we pass on the specific store location where the customer is connecting in from, right? So we have something called as place ID, which is a unique identifier on Google Maps. So that information is passed on to the brand. So if, for example, customer is coming in looking for a product, then you can understand the context that this customer is coming in from, say, Indranagar branch in Bangalore, and you can show the offers which are running in that store. You can show the availability of products in that store without necessarily having to go through that process of asking for pin code and store selection and all that. So that happens in a very, very intuitive fashion on itself.
Okay. Another question from Sumit. What all information is needed from the business to implement Google Business Messages and chatbot? I will just make one comment to all the audience. If possible, please ask your questions in the Q&A section rather than the chat section. It's easier for me to kind of get to the questions as well. But let's coming back to this, what all information is needed from the business to implement GBM and chatbot?
So from business, of course, we will need all the details for brand persona, which includes their logo, brand assets, link to the privacy policy. And I'm assuming this query is coming from a partner or an agency who's trying to implement it for a business. So apart from the brand relevant information, we also need a brand consent, right? So if a partner is coming and saying that we want to implement it for a particular business, then email verification happens to achieve that. And thereafter, what also is needed from the business is if they have a messaging journey already in place, I think a great place to start is just to replicate that journey on GBM. And then as we go along, customize it for the channel. If the messaging journey does not exist, then the first port of call will be to understand what are the use cases that they want to shift from other channels to messaging in itself, and start the journey from there.
Okay, thank you. We have an anonymous um, question. What if the brand tries to reach the user after 30 days? What happens? Do they get an error, or does something else happen? Ashish, you went on
Ashish,
mute.
you are mute.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So one clarification on the 30 days window. This 30 days window is counted from the last interaction from the user. So I, as a user, if I initiated the conversation on 1st of Jan, and I had a to and from with the brand, and that thread got over, and brand nudged me on 7th of Jan, and again I responded. So that 30-day window is from 7 Jan onwards, right? So it's from the last conversation that user initiated, right? Now, if a brand wants to reach out to the user after the 30-day, since last user last engaged, then that conversation does not go through. Since we don't pass on a PI information, we don't pass on any Gmail ID information, any name and all. What we do is we generate a temporary device ID, which is only relevant or only live for 30 days. So after 30 days, the device ID expires, and there's no way for brand to re-engage with the customer on that thread.
Okay. Thank you. Another question from an anonymous attendee. Want to know the security perspective of GVM. Are the messages encrypted?
Yeah, so messages are encrypted from users' devices to Google servers, and as well as the business messaging API is also encrypted. So that means from Google servers right up to the endpoint for API, which is maybe Dotgo's deployment, and from there as well, they are encrypted, right? How the message, all the content, how is it retained at the brand's end? That is, of course, beyond the remit of Google, and we expect that brands will follow and retain the information in line with their privacy policy on that. We treat these messages as a conversation which is happening between users and businesses. So for all the brands, these are your customers as much as they are Google customers, and all the information which is getting transmitted on this channel, we hand it over as it is to you, and you are free to then use it as you deem appropriate.
We have another question here from Bunmi Falati. How do you reduce business ad budget with RCM? Only what is RCM? Did you mean? Do you mean RCS?
I assume it is RBM or RCS. Yeah.
RBM. Okay. Okay. You want to respond to that? Either of you, Shashi or Ashish or Satay?
Yeah. So see, RBM is not essentially an advertising channel, but it's a communication channel. However, for your existing customers, if there is a communication related to an offer, related to a new product launch, related to a short-term offer, whatever that you need to communicate through above the line communication devices, if you use a channel like RBM, the cost is comparatively minimal. So that itself is a lot of saving on your ad budget. However, just a word of caution, RBM or RCS channel cannot be used as a spamming channel. You cannot just use as a broadcast channel. I mean, you could definitely use that as a communication channel between you and your customers who have given you some sort of opt-in and are your existing customers.
Okay. Second, another question from.
And just to add to that, I think the better lens to look at all these new channels, right? Whether it is RBM or it is GBM, like there is a cost benefit analysis which needs to be done, and I think one part of it is the benefit, which are the uplift which gets established. So for all these channels, what we have seen is that even if we look at the conversions which happen, right? Even on a conservative basis, conversions tend to be into the tune of 5 to 17x in some cases, right? So I think in that sense, if you're trying to deploy your budget, whether it's a service budget or it's an ad budget for a specific use case, if you're able to achieve 3 times higher output, then I think that business case gets justified on itself.
Surinder, would you like to speak? You raise your hand.
Surinder, you may have to unmute.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I had accidentally clicked on it. Yeah,
No, but
please.
Thanks. The next question from Bunmi. What does it take to work with you on WhatsApp API? Do you take that, Shashi?
Yes, yeah. So for WhatsApp API, depending on your requirement, whether it's just the API access you want, or you also want us to develop the chatbot for you. So of course, information on your business, information on your use case, to be able to tailor and develop that chatbot for you. So that's a basic information that we'll require, and also your geographic location. Where do you want to implement that?
Yeah. So on this one, we either provide a WhatsApp API, so your own developers can develop the WhatsApp bot, or if you need help in development, then we can also develop the WhatsApp bot experience for you. Next question here is again from an anonymous attendee. Is the brand liable in case wrong information is disseminated by a chatbot erroneously?
Yeah, so whatever, as I mentioned, whatever information is being transmitted is completely liability of the brand. We do have acceptable user policy for all these products, and that defines very clearly that what are the category of use cases which we will not be able to support, and also the fact that any information which is being transmitted from brand's end is completely responsibility of the brand itself. And also to clarify, we don't deploy templates to look at what content is flowing, right? So the only way that we can understand whether the experience has been helpful for users and brands is by looking at aggregated customer satisfaction scores, right? So we look at that as an overlying, like as a guiding fact of whether the experience is helpful. And as long as the CSAT scores are good, I think from Google standpoint, we are supportive of brand being enabled.
Okay. We are hitting 9 o'clock. We have a few more questions. Ashish and Shashi, you have a few more minutes if you go over these.
Oh yes, let's just go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
The question is opt-in and opt-out necessary in GBM?
So in GBM, the conversation starts by user choosing to initiate the conversation, and that itself we treat it as opt-in. As a brand, if you have some additional privacy compliances that you want to explicitly take a consent from user, that you can free to do that. But from a channel standpoint, we consider that user choosing to click on that button itself is an opt-in in first place.
It's a P2A trigger essentially.
It's a P2A trigger, and again, compared to some other channels, I think one of the strongest features for GPM is the discovery piece. Right? There are many messaging channels which are there, and discovery for them is slightly convoluted. On GBM, the strongest value add is that users have that option in a contextual manner, and they can choose to click on it and start the conversation whenever they want. Right? So that itself is an option for us.
Yeah. I think, if I compare this with WhatsApp, where opt-ins are required, in the case of GBM, we don't really manage any opt-in, opt-out list. If you want to reach out to a customer, what we really manage is the people who have contacted you in the last 30 days. So that's a list of people to whom you can reach out to without any further opt-in requirement. Next question from Bunmi. I need more information on rich OTP. Maybe Shashi, you would.
Yeah, sure. So, Bhumi, rich OTP essentially is OTP delivered over RCS channel. Why is it rich OTP? Because apart from the general OTP text, it also goes with the logo of the brand, and it has other functionalities like click to confirm, etc. And therefore, this is called rich OTP. So it's an enhanced experience of sending OTP, and it's very interesting. And let me just add why we kind of introduce this product before any other product in that ecosystem is because OTP probably is the most common use case that we see in A2P communication, and therefore we thought that for people to start experiencing RCS, rich OTP could be one of the best use cases there.
Okay. Thank you. So, another question here. You mentioned about an ad pilot with chat. How do I participate in this Google pilot for chat? I see Osaza is not here. You want to take that, Ashish?
Yeah, so we have a brand registration form. I'll encourage you to directly apply there. I'll share the form on chat here if it's okay. And feel free to submit it and enroll for it. The enrollments are open till end of the month. So you can go ahead and sign up for it.
Okay, great. And Ashish, maybe we can also include that link when we send a recap email to all of the attendees as well.
Absolutely.
The next question here is, what are the ad metrics that can be improved by GBM?
I think the holy metric that we're trying to aim is conversion, right? If at the end of the funnel, I think the impressions don't get influenced by adopting GBM on ads, right? It runs on a specific auction based as it continues to do today. Only difference which it happens is that you're probably going to take the user to a lead form, which is more static in nature, where there's less option to have customization as per your brand and category requirement. Compared to that on GBM, because you can convert that information flow into a more conversational format, which is more intuitive for users, customize it, as we discussed, use it to re-engage with the users over a course of a duration. We believe that that will lead to higher conversions and hence lower cost per acquisition for the brands. Right? So these are the two high-level metrics that we are looking while we're running the pilot for ourselves as well.
Okay. Maybe I'll take one more question, but before I go there, I'd like to just remind everybody that there is a live poll that Olisa has put up. You should be seeing that live poll on your screen. Please, there are 3 short questions. Please do respond to those questions as well. Okay. The last question I will take is, what are the charges for Google Ads with chat? Is there any extra cost for these?
There are no extra costs associated for this.
Is the price basically for an ad is the same as any others?
Yeah, so the prices will be as it is. So if you're already running a search campaign, the methodology of setting up the campaign and bidding for it continues to be as it is. The cost metrics are also similar. The only difference is you have one more engagement channel available, which wasn't there. And depending on the fitment, you can choose to adopt it and test out what works better for you.
Okay.
I've pasted the link to the sign-up form in the chat window. It's a very simple form. It's a non-binding form. If you are interested, go ahead. I strongly encourage you to go ahead and sign up for it. There is also, we are asking for details on who's the partner that you intend to work with. So you can go ahead and share the partner that you want to work with. You can feel free to include Dotgo as well, since Dotgo is already working with many brands to enable them on direct messages.
Thank you. I think in the interest of time, let's kind of close this questions session now. Olisa, back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Inderpal, Ashish, Shashi, for answering all those questions and taking your time out today to be part of this webinar. And to all the attendees as well, thank you for taking out your time today to attend the webinar. I we will you can, if you want to reach out to us to send any questions, you have any pending questions, you can write to us at sales@dotgo.com, and we will answer any of your questions. And we will be sharing the presentation deck along with the form link that Ashish just put out on the chat box in the next 2-3 days over to you via an email. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be hosting such webinars on a monthly basis. So in case you would like to invite any of your colleagues to attend, future webinars, please feel free to share the details. We will be sharing the details over to you via email in the next coming few weeks. So thank you all for joining in today. We will close the webinar for now.